Mm.
Pura wipes. 100% plastic free, 100% biodegradable. Order now at mypura.com.
The virtual meetup. Tonight is the first of our live evening events. It's called G and Friends. It's brought to you by the amazing Pura, who have made all this magic happen. And tonight's chat is all about the fourth trimester and beyond, which is an emotional time. It's difficult physically, mentally, all the different ways, and so to me it's a really important one to cover, and I think everyone's experience is different, but we can all come together in so many ways that people share. It's weird now that we're not all together, and I love every time we go out on stage and every time we tour, have my baby, I love that feeling of community. And it was really sad that we couldn't do that this year because of, COVID life. But it was more important than ever, I felt, to bring us all together and have that sense of community and that support. And that is why we have done this. If you guys would like to get involved, please comment, leave questions, and hopefully I'll be able to, on this little screen here, get you guys involved during the chat as well. So tonight's about the fourth trimester and beyond, and to tell us all about what that is and their own experiences of it, please welcome three amazing women. It's Izzy Judd, Illy Morrison, and Debbie Lee. Hi. So, Illy, could you please explain to us, because I've got to say it was not around, it was not a thing when I had my first two. What is the fourth trimester?
Okay, so pregnancy is split into supposedly 3 trimesters. There's 3 months. The fourth trimester is that birth to 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally that. It is that added trimester, which we are very grateful to have been sort of recognized as another transitional time. So it's sort of getting a bit of momentum, and people are giving it the respect that it deserves. So pregnancy actually consists of 4 trimesters.
I think one of the things for me that I've realized is that when it came to being pregnant, I think I spent a lot of my time trying to get pregnant, and that was the main focus, actually getting pregnant. And actually, it's the end of Baby Loss Awareness Week today, and one of our charities is Tommy's and Shine Wave of Light campaign and everything tonight. So huge love and everything to everyone who's been affected by that, and so many people have. So off the back of a miscarriage, I spent so much of my time thinking about getting pregnant and then getting through the pregnancy and then getting the baby out. That was my main focus. How is that going to happen? How do I do that? I had the pram, I had the clothes washed in the wardrobe and stuff, but I didn't really think about what would happen to me emotionally, physically, or mentally when the baby was actually in my arms. Like, Izzy, tell me I'm not alone in that.
Totally not alone. And as you know, I had a difficult journey to motherhood initially. I had IVF for my daughter Lola, and absolutely have lit a candle tonight for all the babies that have been loved and lost. And I sadly miscarried my first. And so through my first pregnancy with Lola, I was so fearful of her arriving safely into the world that no thought whatsoever had been given to what I was actually going to do when that baby was sat in the car seat on the floor in our living room. As you say, I had all the baby grows folded, I had the pram, I had, everything practically, but emotionally I was so not prepared. And for both of my fourth trimesters, because I then went on to have Kit quite quickly, and I've sort of been in shock ever since, I think. My fourth trimesters were so different. You know, I was expecting my second experience to mimic the first, and actually I was suddenly with a completely new baby who I didn't understand at all. So the fourth trimester, I mean, even having gone through motherhood once, you're still left in this world of a baby that is completely unique. And a song that I would sing to settle Lola, he wasn't having any of it. So, you know, it's I really feel for anybody, especially at the moment, with lack of support, community, and probably feeling quite alone, not being able to do the baby groups, etc., etc. It must be incredibly tough. So good for you, G, for keeping these conversations going and, you know, doing this tonight.
Well, I think there is that massive thing of you do all the work, you read all the books, and you think you are prepared. And I think that's actually our first mistake as mums, is thinking we're prepared. When it comes to babies, you're never prepared, because each baby is completely different, like you've just said. Debbie Lee, how did you, if I was in fourth trimester to you, how does that make you feel? And I've got to put this quick disclaimer for people as well, that there might be some throughout tonight before Debbie opens her mouth. There might be. I'm sorry. Advanced recording. Debbie.
I love the way you warn people before I come on. If I'm being honest, honestly, the fourth trimester for me was fucking hard, and I'm not even joking. It was so painfully hard, and I've got a very similar journey to Izzy as well. I struggled to get both my children, they're rainbow babies, and I wasn't prepared at all. I joined an NCT group because I thought that was the right thing to do to educate me and prepare me for motherhood. But it didn't. It all went out of the window. I forgot all that, and I was handed this new baby with no manual, and I was just like, "What do we do?" You know. And I just remember. Sorry.
No, carry on.
No, I just remember, like, even now, I'm getting really anxious, and like I'm having like probably a mini panic attack talking about it, because I could still hear the new baby cry, and it just fills me with dread. I just found that whole period really, really hard. I was on the floor, I was knackered, I didn't know what to do, and I was just, you know, I just wasn't that mum that I thought that I would be. You know, I wasn't that mum that was, oh, you know, it's amazing. I just wasn't her. I was just like, fucking hate this.
See, that's the thing, because I think for many of us, though, we're fed that narrative that motherhood is amazing. That's the one word that you always partner up with, amazing. And I think especially when you struggle to get pregnant, that is the word, because you should be grateful, and it's an amazing thing. You've been given this gift of motherhood.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah, totally.
I thought I was Mary Poppins. I was going to be Maria from The Sound of Music, or the Oxo mum. And actually, when I actually became a mum, I felt like I didn't have a single maternal bone in my body, and I questioned what on earth I was doing.
I'm the same. I literally wing it every day. I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time. But you know, having children is obviously the best gift in the world. It is the most amazing gift in the world, but equally it's so hard. And for me, the fourth trimester was really, really hard. I found it so tough. And I, like you say, you know, I think I felt there was like an obligation to kind of be appreciative and have this amazing love for your child. And I just didn't feel it. I had really bad postnatal depression, and I just didn't feel it. I love my children. Please don't think I don't.
You don't have to. That's the thing. You don't have to put that disclaimer, because of course you love your children. And I think when we're talking about maternal mental health, that's separate to your love. You know what I mean? that's not your love, that's something else that's going on. And I mean, because we can't prepare for what it's going to do to us mentally or how we're going to feel, even that, for me, even the birth is, it's never going to be textbook. The way that you feel when your baby is put in your arms, we're told about this amazing bond. For so many people, that doesn't happen. And so we feel guilty different steps of the way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my birthing was, I don't know how I gave birth. I had 2 natural births with just gas and air, and I educated myself with hypnobirthing. I meditated, I did yoga. I just wanted to have a real easy transition. And fuck me, I was the loudest person in that room screaming. It was so painful. But it was worth the pain.
You did it again. You did it twice.
Oh God.
Tomorrow. So you're the closest to the 4th trimester, Illy. How do you feel looking back at that first year? I think the further away you get from it as well, you kind of reflect on things in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, so if you were to have asked me when she turned 1, I was still quite in the sort of probably coming out of, I don't know what I'd even call it, like probably recognizing the trauma that I felt throughout that whole first year. And I would have said to you that it was, you know, hazy at best. And then now coming up to 2, I'm like, okay, no. It's like I was saying to you before, I've got some newborn photos of her that I can only now look at, and I looked at for the first time the day before yesterday, and not feel like sort of shivers and just a very negative feeling. And I carried around guilt, you know, I carried around guilt at feeling that towards my child. And mum guilt is something that Anna Martha was talking about this morning, but also it's prevalent, and it kind of continues. We always feel guilty about something, you know, guilty about our own feelings that somehow have become invalid, which they're not. And so for me, it was like, it's really been like a process of accepting that experience for what it was, and those feelings for what they were, not being bad feelings or not being wrong feelings, just being what my experience was. And that whole, gosh, the immediate 4th trimester, complete blur. And it's so funny because if you'd have seen me on the outside, I looked absolutely fine. I was 2 days post-section. I went home just over 24 hours afterwards, and I took no pain relief. So up and down the stairs, I was doing all of these things. Day 4, I took her to the osteopath, and I was just doing all of these things, but I was definitely running on a bit of autopilot. And I just remember she wouldn't stop crying. I think she probably cried for 6 weeks straight. And I remember saying out loud in front of someone who'd come to see me, a very old family friend, to come to see me and see the baby. And I remember just going, just shut up. And that is a sign for me, looking back, that things just weren't right. To look at your newborn and just be like, just shut up. Like, shut up. You know, that, and, you know, I don't feel any which way about it. I think if I told her to shut up now, she'd turn around and tell me to shut up. Like, you know, but actually they're really loud, you know, they're really loud, and it's constant. And I'm very like sensitive to noise. And that was really triggering for me, all of that noise over and over again, the interrupted sleep, the interrupted conversation, those moments of calm that lasted about 3 seconds, and then 0 to 100. And what we don't think about with that 4th trimester is we are learning too, you know, we were born too. Like I'm a first time mum. I'd never mothered before. So how was I supposed to know? She didn't come with a manual. Like, you know, I couldn't just take her batteries out and be like, sod this. It was it was really transitional, and I don't think I was cutting myself enough slack in that sense either. I thought, I'm a midwife, I should know how to do this. This will be as easy as my pregnancy was. It will be fine. I can hack it. And actually, it all went a bit tits up, literally.
Yeah. I think there's also that thing of feeling like you want to get it right and you want to do the best job and be the best mum. Izzy, so you had Lola at the same time that I had Buddy, and I can remember just feeling like you swam through it, like it was all so calm for you. I can remember feeding next to you actually upstairs. A friend of mine, second child, I'd breastfed another one, and you're going, breathe, G, just breathe. We'd be like, yes, just breathe. But I always think it's interesting how other people, like Illy said, how other people perceive us to be getting on and how actually we are getting on.
I think as mums, we feel a pressure, whether it's not right or wrong, but that we should be doing well at this. There's sort of this assumption that they're our baby and we should understand their cries, we should understand their needs. And, it's funny, G, because I think if I look back to that time, I thought you were the one that was all sorted and all covered. And, I was the one that was basically, that duck that swims along, but underneath I'm like this, And I always remember you saying to me, in the morning, pack up everything you need and take it downstairs with you. Don't go up and down the stairs. And that tip really stayed with me. But
me getting an infection after having buzz because I was walking up and downstairs so much.
Yeah. But also, I think, again, with Lola, looking back, she was a really easy baby. I was the one that struggled. So I remember vividly, I found it really hard to go out. And yet all my kind of NCT friends and other friends would be meeting for coffee. And it would give me such anxiety, the thought of her cry being loud or me not being able to feed her in public because I don't know, I've found it really, really difficult. And I remember just walking along the road and this person coming up to me and saying, are you getting any sleep? That question that people ask. And I was like, well, actually, my baby's sleeping really well. I can't sleep. I am up all night. I'm worried she's too hot, she's too cold. Has she had enough food? I was just so anxious. So then when Kit came along, who was actually a nightmare baby, love him, but a total nightmare, I was like, oh my God, Lola was so easy. And I made such a fuss. But I think going to Illy's point about the noise, I think we have so much internal noise of motherhood, of guilt and should haves and anxieties of future, and just it's a continuous conversation that we're having with ourselves. And
that
then
mental load is
totally. And then you've got the external noise. You've got the children crying. There is so much noise. It's so difficult to find that space for yourself, to reconnect with yourself. And then all of a sudden you've got a 2-year-old and you have lost your identity completely because you have just been so focused on getting to the end of the day alive.
Yeah. And that's the sort of thing, though. I think you can spend so much of your time as a mum, especially in that first year, kind of going, just get through the day. Just get through the day. Or that, okay, this has got, and you can have an amazing day and then feel like a failure because there was a tantrum at bedtime or a meltdown over something, or you just read something wrong. Like, I just think every day just throws other things your way and you're kind of like, okay, one more. So
also just like, you're given these funny targets, like, oh, at 6 weeks they'll do this, and at this time they'll do this, and so you're kind of constantly on some type of countdown. You're like, no, but I've just got to get to 3. I've just got to get to, or I've just got to once they're feeding, they won't breastfeed so much once they're eating solid. And okay, so I've just got to do that, and that's a load of crap as well. Like, it's just like, God, weaning was
Oh
the
my God,
most
I'm cracking up.
weaning was the most anticlimactic, wasteful period of mothering yet. The amount of food on the floor, I had double the work, and the child was still hanging off my breast for the subsequent 6 months. So I don't care what anyone says about that. It's nonsense.
I remember, sorry, Lou. I remembered when my sister-in-law, I had amazing help from my sister-in-law and my best friend and my friend Lucy. And I remembered they said to me, when they reach 3 months, it's a turning point. There's a turning point when they reach 3 months. I was like, okay, I've got to get to 3 months. I've got to get to 3 months. 3 months came, nothing changed. I was still sleep deprived. They weren't sleeping, they weren't eating, my boobs were massive and leaking, everything was just, nothing changed. And I rang and I went, you lied to me, nothing's changed. Oh my goodness.
On the dot, having your calendar there going, it's 3 months today.
Yeah, I know.
When we have days now where it's really manic and the 3 boys are all, causing chaos, I think back to that time where it was just Buzz and he was a newborn, and I do kind of say to myself, how did I find that so hard? How did I find that so challenging? And actually, it just is the most challenging, because I think that's the massive turning point in your life. Like, your whole axis, your whole world completely shifts. So it makes sense that, like, your life is never the same again, because you have this human who's kind of taken over. Your sense of self completely goes out the window. You don't know who you are alongside this mother figure that you've just suddenly become. So I think it's important to give ourselves credit as well when we're talking about how hard it was, because although I always thought, looking forward to having my baby, that it would be like me being with my friends' kids, who, I was great at hanging out with my friends' kids. I was brilliant. I gave them my focus. They laughed with me. They thought I was great. And then all of a sudden you have your own, and actually it's all the other responsibilities that you weren't even aware of before you had kids that kind of come crashing down as well.
There's just no one to give them back to, I was never particularly maternal. I was just like, I like my kid, but I wasn't the person that would volunteer to take someone else's child. And being a midwife, people are like, what do you mean? But I'm like, no, I love to care for women, and I love to give them their babies and, that type of thing. But it wasn't that I had this great love for babies. And so I was like, but I'll like my kid because we'll get each other, it will be fine because she's mine and it will be okay. Yeah, right. That was as well. Like that is karma right there, because my mum said I was a right little shit, and so there we go.
So this is
literally that just cracks me up.
So Hayley on YouTube asked, do babies just cry within the 4th trimester, or is there absolutely always a reason? So do they just cry, or is there a reason? Also, sometimes I can't settle my baby, but my husband can. Could that be because she can sense my breast milk? Yes, it totally is. That is just a boob out situation if it's you doing it. And that was always for me.
Yeah, and also totally. He'll try and act like, oh, well, she settles with me. But it's also just that way that they just hold them and it's like, yeah, whatever. Whereas we know that we could give in and just give them boob as well. So we hold them differently. We go about it differently. Yeah. And, so they always seem like they're, people say it like they're good for their dads, but it's like, well, they also don't rely on them for their food and all those things. So they might just be like, okay, I'm good. So I'll just be calm and comforted. Whereas with their mums, that milk smell, their sense of smell is incredible. And they just know. And also they do cry. Sometimes we just talk for the sake of it as well. It's just the only way that they communicate. So sometimes they do just cry.
Yeah, crying is the only form of communication they have until that first smile, although I would like to say that I did claim every little bit of wind as a smile. I don't care. It was a promise of what would come. Don't tell me it's wind.
I really wish I had, if someone had given me a bit of advice, I wish I had given Harry more opportunity to step in the fourth trimester. And I am my own worst enemy, because I want the help, but I'm like, yeah, but not like that. No, don't. What are you doing? No, it's this milk. No, you need to. Is that how you're sterilizing? Oh, and you're kind of, you've got to allow them to make the mistakes too, and to give them the confidence. Because I think I was so desperately wanted to just be in control and prove all the time that I could settle my baby, or I can do it all. I'll be fine. And actually, by not allowing other people in and learning that it takes a village, literally, to support you as a mother right from the fourth trimester, is such a valid lesson to learn. And even now, if Harry makes the packed lunch for school or nursery or whatever, I'm like, what have you put in it? And I have to stop myself and kind of go, I have to allow him to do it too, in his way.
That's the thing,
so
though.
true, really.
It's also that thing of allowing people in and admitting that you can't do everything, or allowing yourself to not do everything. I think it's quite different.
Yeah, I can totally relate with you, Lily. Izzy. They don't tell you in the fourth trimester how much your relationship is going to be affected as well. I mean, goodness, I really resented Luke in the fourth trimester. The fact that he was sleeping, the fact that he could go to work, he could have a coffee in peace, he could have a shit in peace, he could do everything like he could do everything without an audience, and I'm like, I remembered really resenting him and going, oh my God, just get up and feed the baby. I was just so, I was so jealous of his position.
We never communicate it.
So I know.
We never say, we do it in other ways.
I did say. I did say. Yeah. I said, I kicked, like when he would be sleeping, I'd be like, oh, look, oh shit, I kicked you. Like, it's just not on. Like, we both have this child. Like, I wasn't alone. Like, so, and it did it was at the point where I was like, I just need you. Because sometimes we also like to, as women, I think a lot of the time we like to sort of hint and be like, I just want him to realize that I'm struggling. And men often see things like in a very linear way. Mm-hmm. And that's not all men, but like very black and white. Like, so I realized quite early that if I didn't tell him what to do, he wasn't actually going to read my look and know that I was, like it was like, okay, listen, I need you to do this. And he functioned really poorly on a little bit of sleep. And so it was like, let's both play to our strengths. So I could function quite well on little sleep, but I needed a bit of space and things like that. So I was like, when you get in from work, just take her. Like, I need you to just take her for half an hour. I'm going to have a shower, and, even if she cries, I need you to just keep her. And it became like a bit of like a routine. That's what he would do. And I was able to get that time, and I wouldn't wake him up in the middle of the night, because, to be honest with you, he would just get on my nerves. So I said, go to the spare room, you go sleep there. She woke up in the middle of the night. I brought the telly into my bedroom, and I would turn on the telly and just chill with my baby. And it worked well, because we were both just doing what we needed to do. Yeah. However, I recognized that for many people, it is a lot more complex than that. And it's like, some partners aren't as willing, and some also don't know how. I think it's really important to have these conversations in pregnancy and before pregnancy, I think, because we need to recognize that men and partners are also going through their own transitions into parenting. That may not be expressed in the way that we express them. And so if you kind of like have a bit of a plan, that probably won't go to plan, because nothing goes to plan after you have a baby, but like a bit of like an understanding, you discuss like your kind of needs and what you think you'll need and where you think you'll need them to step in and help out. Sometimes I think that could really work.
Well, there is that thing, isn't there? Because the first 6 months, really, they aren't needed as much as the mother, especially if you're breastfeeding, but a baby will generally need its mum most. I would say, in the first 6 months. And the dad's job, or the partner's job in that first chunk, especially the first trimester, is to be there for the mum, who, let's not forget, has given birth whatever way. So either she's pushed the baby out of her fanny, or she's had major surgery. Those are two massive things that she's done. So to be there for your partner during that time is really vital. And I think another key of the resentment for me is the idea of they're allowed to leave to go to work, their life continues.
Oh my goodness, I know. Oh,
they see have adult conversation. Like, what?
And we can't, like, that is a major thing, that your life has completely changed, whereas the other person in the picture, it doesn't happen in the same way,
And also their mental kind of load is very different, because yours is constant on sort of how you're going to, even in the first thing in the morning or in the middle of the night, well, tomorrow I've got to get the clothes ready, and then I've got to make dinner, and then I've got to do a shopping list, and then I've got to do, and your mind is like constantly going. And then it's like a white screen, it is bedtime, I'm going to sleep. And tomorrow I'll get up to the sound of my alarm that I have snoozed 13 times and I'll go to work.
But also they have this like newfound huge respect for you, because they've just seen you give birth. So they're like, oh my goodness, like what you've just given me, you're like the greatest gift. And then you've like all of a sudden, I mean, I haven't got any tits at all, and all of a sudden I had this like massive tits and really glowing skin, and he was just like, oh God, you look so beautiful and amazing. I'm like, fuck off, get off me. And it was all that as well, all that to think, oh, I just want to be with like, I just want to wear the same stuff every day, and I just don't want him to touch me. That was another thing. I just wouldn't let him touch me for ages, and that really affected our relationship. I don't know how it was with you, Illy, or with you, Izzy, or with you, G, but I think it's like near me.
Out. Like, especially breastfeeding, you can get really touched out. Like, it's just so much, your body is suddenly something else. It's got other needs, and someone else is relying on it. And sometimes seeing any type of like sexuality or sensuality in that is like, God, my boobs are leaking. I've got like my vagina hurts, or I've got a sexual wound across my stomach, and I feel like, I smell different, and I just don't feel in the least bit sexual. And like, definitely. I was just like, oh no. And like the midwife, when I saw her, or the health visitor, was like, you can resume sexual activity. I was like, can you not say that? Like, just don't say that, and don't say that in front of him. It is not on. Like, don't give him any ideas. And I say to my patients, I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, we're going to be speaking about when it's okay to resume sexual activity. And I had one woman say to me, tell him it takes 6 months. And I was like, honey, I can't lie like that. But
I think it was 9 months. 9 months for me. I was loving it. I'll tell you what, if he stayed open me for 9 months now, I'd love it. I'm so tired all the time. I mean, like, who's got time for that shit, right?
Parenting,
yeah. The biggest form of conception.
Yeah, seriously.
I was thinking earlier of the things that would get me emotional that now I realise are ridiculous, but the little things that tip you over the edge. And for me, I was a week in, and obviously during pregnancy, I had to stop having certain foods. And my favourite lunch is like an Italian like antipasti with like deli meats and sun-dried tomato and olives and all of that. Oh, and basically we'd got home from hospital. I think it was a week in for definite. And me and Tom were enjoying that. I was loving life. Buzz was asleep next to us. And then some extended family members came in. And one of the first comments was, you're not allowed to have that. You're not meant to have that. That's like the tomatoes. It's bad for your milk. It's bad for the baby. Be like, and I held in all day long until they left. And my brother and my sister were there that night. And my just helped me. I was like, I'm not allowed to eat tomatoes. Of course I am, because I Googled that, because Google is your best friend. But it's crazy, those little moments that are actually pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but they tip you over into just can't deal with it anymore. Izzy, did you have anything like that?
I was just thinking, I remember you telling me about that, about your I remember being quite, I think, you know, in those sort of first weeks, your adrenaline, you keep going and you're sort of on this machine, and you know that there's going to be the sleepless nights, and you're kind of prepped in that way. But then the adrenaline, everything kind of subsides, and people that rallied round aren't there so much, and the sleep kind of deprivation really hits, and you feel pretty sick all day, and you just want to be eating sugar cubes if you could. And I remember feeling really suddenly quite lonely, that even though I had my baby and was like, as we were saying earlier, you know, the guilt of finding it hard when you've gone through difficulty for a baby, I didn't want to express that I was actually like, where's my time with Harry? Like, it almost felt like a bit of a loss. And I remember having this night with Harry of just feeling like I just couldn't remember who I was. And yeah, it was just this weird sort of transition, and that it was never going to change. You know, this was now life, and I was now a mother. And where was Izzy? It was that kind of, and where's Izzy and Harry? And that really takes a lot of work. And that takes, you know, I do obviously a lot in the kind of with mindfulness, and it takes practice to really, really think and look after yourself as a mother, to really think about your self-care and your needs as well. And I think we're so quick to put them last on the list, and we all do it. It's completely natural, but it's permission. I think so much of it is just, it's permission to give yourself a bit of a break, and to give yourself that time, and actually schedule it in. You know, we schedule in everything else, but we don't schedule in for us.
Well, it's interesting. So Anna Martha was talking today, so she kicked this whole thing off. And I'm one who always says stuff like, just simple little things for me. That's my self-care, like smell the coffee in the mornings. And but she was saying things like, you know, going to the toilet on your own, having a shower on your own, taking those little moments. That's not self-care. That's self-respect. That's what you should be allowed to do without. That's not. Don't add into your self-care time. That's just respect yourself. And that. So this morning I was like, yeah. But it is a very difficult thing to kind of go, actually, I'm going to take some time for me, because I feel like when you sign up to be a mum, you're almost thinking that you are giving over your life, and that you no longer count. Where actually, if you don't give yourself time, the blocks are all going to fall and come tumbling down.
But also, I think because we watched our mums be busy. I don't know about you, everyone's experience is unique, but my mum never sat down. I mean, she was constantly busy. And you watch that, you observe it. And actually, for your children to realise that it's okay to do nothing sometimes. You know, we're going, I mean, at the moment, there's not a lot we can do. We have to book things, you know, weeks in advance. But, you know, we're constantly comparing, what are they doing? I should be doing that. Or why am I not baking that cake? And why am I not doing that activity? And you're constantly trying to fill your child's time, your time, your baby's time. And actually doing nothing is a really good skill to teach them as well, that we don't have to be on all the time. We can just be.
But also, this, like, it does not make you a better parent by being busy. Like, what we do, and we compare ourselves all the time, and so-and-so's doing, like, stay plays and mum and baby groups and this, that and the other, and I am just sitting at home not doing anything. That sense of stillness is like similar to what you're saying, is it's like, be still. And when you be still, you allow healing, and you allow reflection, and you allow self-care, because self-care is marketed now. It's marketed as like, you know, oh my gosh, yeah, you can go to the salon and you can do this and you can do that. And what that does is it isolates many women and birthing people who can't afford those things, and makes it seem like it's something that's out of reach. And actually, what self-care is not going to the toilet, because that's what you should be doing anyway. It's not going in the shower. It's just sitting, and it's allowing yourself to just think about you and switch your brain off for just 5 minutes. You know, those are things of self-care. Self-care is also not something, the way I view it anyway, is that it's not individual, it's communal. And it is so, like, for me, I said to my dad, I was like, she's my daughter, blah, blah, blah. He goes, oh, she's your daughter. And I remember thinking, what do you mean, oh, she's my daughter? Like, why is he asking me that? Of course she's my daughter. And what he meant was, you don't have to take it all on yourself. So when you start saying it's mine, she's mine, it's all the responsibility is on you, everything falls on you. And actually it's saying, I have a village, and your village does not need to consist of 10,000 people. Like, it could be 2 people, it could be 1, but you've got those people that will support you to care for yourself, and then essentially be able to care for your children. And that's where we need to really kind of drill down this message of self-care, that it isn't a luxury, and it isn't wrapped up in bows and frills and everything. It is just individual, and we have to do what we can.
And finding what works for you, because for me personally, the idea of spending time getting my nails done, getting my hair, it's not fun. Like, I don't like that stuff. But actually, weirdly, in the last year, going out for a half-hour run, and I never thought I would say that ever, that's amazing. Like, I know. But that feeling of where I can feel so knocked down with the pressure, go out for half an hour, and then suddenly those pressures are still there. Nothing's changed. My life is still the same. But all of a sudden, those pressures that were coming down on me, it's just suddenly elevated a bit, and I can deal with it, and my head's a bit clearer. So that's why that's my bit of self-care, is going for a run, because I know what it does for my mental health. But it is finding what works for you, and also that thing of not feeling like you have to be pressured into going, this is what you need to do. You need to go to a spa and have people touching you. Maybe you don't want anyone to touch you for just half an hour. Isn't that nice? Is it?
I mean,
totally.
I think people, when you talk about, you know, these, as you're saying, G, you know, it's what works for everybody, but you know, I think it's realizing that actually it doesn't take loads and loads of time to make small changes. You know, for example, one of the big game changers for me was turning off notifications on my phone. So turning off the email alerts, the WhatsApp groups, which can just go crazy. And even in lockdown, it was even more, because you had even more groups of people, and you're trying to focus on something with your child, and you're being so naturally distracted. Also, playing with children can get a bit boring, so it's very easy to just go, oh, I'll just check in on my phone because I need to connect. But actually, by turning off the notifications and then going, okay, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to put on Peppa Pig for half an hour, and I'm going to go through my notifications, and I'm not going to feel bad about it, and sort of looking at your boundaries and what works for you. I think it's all part of learning how you're going to survive this madness of being a mum.
And it is actually about letting go of prejudgmental, like any prejudgmental thought that you had before having a baby, because you do have to, all the advice that people give you, it's about kind of getting rid of all of it and just going, but what do we need in this moment? What's going to work for us? It's completely. We have a question from Ali on YouTube, was asked, it goes back to feeding actually and baby times, but did you all wake your baby to feed it at regular intervals? Which I have to say, I did wake up Buzz because he was underweight. I can remember waking him up every 3 hours when he was a newborn, and But I didn't do the dream feed or anything like that. Did anyone else do a dream feed?
Yeah, I did.
So,
Yeah, I did.
we talk about the dream feed.
Yeah, no, I did a dream feed. Well, actually, I didn't do the dream feed, and so we sleep trained our kids, and we got some help to do that. But one of the things that we were advised to do was to do a dream feed, and I couldn't do it because I just had this anxiety in me when it came to about 10 o'clock to do the dream feed. So Luke always did the dream feed, and it was, yeah, we assumed, or we thought that dream feed would make them sleep through the night, and because it did make Roman sleep through the night, we just believed that it would work. It did work, so we just carried it on. But yeah, that for us was magic, because it allowed us to sleep. Sorry.
Yeah, and once you find that thing, it's so hard to let it go. You're just like, no, we're going to keep this too.
We kept that dream feed for as long as possible. And also we were advised to wake them every 3 hours because I think Roman was underweight as well, so we had to wake him. But I wouldn't wake a sleeping baby. But because we were advised to, and because the dream feed worked for us, we did it. So it was amazing for us. Yeah.
I think each person's experience is so different, and what works for them is different. And whether it's sleep training, dream feeding, things like that, I never did a dream feed. Ihsan lost lots of weight at the beginning, and so I was on sort of like a 3-hour regime thing, but I never used to wake her because she was awake already, so it wasn't so she would sleep like half an hour to 45 minutes. So there was no time for any of that. But as she got older, I never, ever woke her. What I would say is, like, if your child is healthy and thriving and functioning without a dream feed, if it ain't broke, that would literally be it. You look at your individual situation. Is this necessary? Is it working? And go.
I remember being completely just obsessed with this breastfeeding app that I had with Lola, of like how long she fed for, and it told me which side I'd fed on the last time, and when I would, I remember just being completely, just all my natural instinct just went out the window, because I just was so sort of just being totally kind of fixed to what this app was saying. And then when Kit came along, he cried. He just cried all the time. He had really bad silent reflux, and it was just, he was so uncomfortable. I could not settle him. I could not make him content. He would just cry and cry and cry, and I just couldn't work out what it was. Initially, because I had such a different experience the first time round. And that really shook me. And actually, in many ways, even though once I had Kit and I'd already been mum and done that the first time round, I actually found it much harder the second time, because I found it really difficult to understand him. I don't know whether anyone else has had that with one of their children, but I could not work out just how I could make him content. It was just the hardest thing, to see your baby and not be able to settle and reassure and comfort them. It was really tough.
Is that it's sort of that whole thing? It leads to, and it's really prevalent in the 4th trimester. And it leads to such feelings of inadequacy, because you're kind of taught about, it's your baby and this connection and this bond and this and this that, and this cry sounds like this, and you'll see other people be like, oh yeah, she's hungry, oh yeah, she's this, and they just know, and you're like, I have no idea what that cry means. I will offer everything and anything and just hope for the best. I mean, for me, it was just boob. She would go, I'd go boob, like everything was boob. And that's why 2 years later, we're still breastfeeding, because even though she can speak, I'm just like, no, here. But,
it's also when you're out and about and the baby cries and other people are like, oh, is she tired? She's hungry. like, how do you know that? Like, I've just fed her. How could I be hungry? Like, you know, or I saying that though,
Especially those breastfeeding babies who just are hungry so often.
all the time.
You're like, I just fed you. Okay, so now we're going to go. I'm just going to go to M&S because you've had a good feed and you look really drowsy. And you get to the shop and you're thinking, cool, I've got this full baby. Shopping is ready. I'm just going to have a little move. And suddenly they let out a scream and a lovely old lady comes and basically judgingly says to you, that baby's starving.
Honestly.
And it takes you that long to get out the house as well. So you think, right, I've got a window of time before the next feed, because God forbid they might start crying when you're out.
No, I started
the haunt of the cry. I remember being in the shower with I think it was Lola, and the haunting cry. I thought I could hear her cry even when she wasn't crying. It would just ring in my ears, all this cry. And quick, get to the shops, do the shop. Oh.
I can remember Lola's cry. And so if you put Lola and Buddy together, honestly, like Buddy was like loud. Lola's cry, which you would, I can remember being here once, and you'd be like, oh no, she's having a meltdown, and her cry was this. It's like all she's got. Come on, Buddy, Your baby is the one that produces your hormones, that gets you, the mum sweats, your milk suddenly starts going. So your baby has a massive reaction, but I don't think other people hear your baby in the same way that you do.
No, they don't. No, I just remember, I don't know about you girls, but I used to just shove them on my boob just to make them be quiet. I don't know if they were hungry or not, but my immediate thought was like, they're crying, they just need the boob, or just to use it as a pacifier, you know, just to use it as a dummy. It's like, right, they're crying, just put them on the boob. And if I was like with friends or in a restaurant, and they were crying and I couldn't calm them down, I used to just put them on the boob, because that was just the only way I knew to stop them from crying. I didn't know whether it's the right thing or not.
First time around with I was quite regimented with like feeding, like it would be 3 hours and then 4 hours, and I was quite strict with that. But when it got to the third baby, Max, I was like, he's crying. Like, I think my mentality completely changed. So even with like cluster feeding and stuff, I was like, is that what you need? That's fine. But it's completely different.
No, I mean, I basically put Ihsan in the sling, and I had the worst back because I used to carry it so it was in line with my boobs. I mean, my boobs are definitely big enough to kind of come out, and I mean, my boobs have been out in M&S, in Sainsbury's, in Zara. Like, everyone has had a bit of a side boob or a bit of a full boob, because I couldn't feel anything. I mean, the wind changed and it was just dead flesh. Like, it was like, oh, whatever. And I would just feed her in the sling. We would literally just be walking around. She's just feeding the whole time. She's asleep. I don't take that boob out of her mouth. And it was her dummy. It was her dummy. And I just thought, you know what, for an easy life. And people would say to me, are you still breastfeeding? She's finished now. And I'd just be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't care. Like,
I wish I had been able to. I found feeding out really hard. I was just one of these people that just needed to completely strip everything off. Everything was huge. Boob was huge. Lola's head was huge. The milk was just going everywhere. I was like, how can I do? I really admired the mums that could just kind of go whoop.
I know. Yeah, I was the same, Izzy. I hated breastfeeding out. I think that contributed to my postnatal depression, because I was breastfeeding. So, and you know, the thought of going out and breastfeeding was, it just filled me with dread. And I know this sounds quite shallow, but because I am in fashion, breastfeeding in public with those, I don't know, with like maternity breastfeeding tops was just, oh my goodness, no, I couldn't do it.
And I don't think it is shallow. I don't think it's shallow at all. Breastfeeding clothes can be so like, bleh, and like having to think, will I be able to access my boob? And maternity bras don't make clothes look nice. And, you know, all of those things. I think that, but you know, you've said it's shallow, but actually you, by admitting that, is recognizing that you wanted to still feel like yourself. Like, hold on, man, like, I can't do what I want to do and feel like me and still have to, I mean, it's a lot.
No, you're exactly right, Ellie. It's, it's just admitting it, isn't it? And I found it really, really hard, breastfeeding. And so with Rosie, I think having Rosie really for me saved me, because I was much more experienced, much more relaxed. And as soon as I had Rosie, I combi fed straight away, because I was like, I can't deal with the exclusive breastfeeding. And I needed help straight away. And I just had like a much better experience with Rosie. I just had her eczema to deal with, which was a whole nother issue.
It's also the pressure on ourselves. Like, I don't know, but Debbie, it sounds like the same as with me. Like, I had this thing in my head that I wanted to breastfeed. So the guilt and the judgment and everything, that was me that I was putting on myself. And actually, it sounds like when you came along, you allowed yourself the grace and the respect to kind of go, do you know what, let's just do what works, and actually not put myself in that place again. Because it is that whole thing of have mum, have baby. Like, if you're not in a place where you can, like, be you and give your baby everything, then you've got to put yourself first as well, and your needs are so important.
Totally. Definitely. Happy mum is happy baby, definitely.
I've just got a comment which is about Julia on YouTube has asked, how would you recommend meeting other parents to create a support network when no antenatal classes are happening, which I guess is happening for so many people right now, which is, like Izzy at the top of this, you were saying how you feel for new mums now and how lonely and isolated that must be. I guess the main thing is finding.
I was just saying, I'm actually feel quite worried because I kind of, looking back, I think I rushed out the house too soon. I think I put pressure on myself to leave the house too soon. But when Lola was 12 weeks, I started her first class, and actually it was really important to see and have that connection with other mums and see, oh, okay, they're finding this, tricky too. But I think a lot of the groups, they are trying their best now to kind of set up more virtual classes, and I know more classes are opening up, but it's just, if you've been really used to not having to go out and kind of your confidence is knocked, I think it must be really, really tough at the moment.
Well, the thing, I guess, with those baby groups, that although they, are all about you and the baby and the bonding experience, really, like, if I'm honest, I went to those baby groups to sit next to another mum and just go, ugh. Do you know what I mean? That is, and I think when it comes to online, it's amazing that those groups are there, because they will help you in ways to do things with your baby and to know what you're meant to be doing and how to do it and all those sorts of things. But I think then you have to find your support networks in other little pockets online and find those women that speak to you and make you feel good. I think if you find yourself in a forum that it's all negative and everyone's putting everyone down or saying, oh, there's so much judgment, get off of it, block that website so you never go back. And it's all about, I think there's a find your tribe, like my vibes, my tribe's my vibe. I don't know, that old slogan. But it's that thing, isn't it, of finding your people, finding those people that make you feel good and empower you rather than make you feel like you're doing a terrible job.
And it does go back to that sort of... Go on, Debbie, you can go.
Oh, no, sorry, Lee, no, you go. I was just going to make a quick suggestion. For me, I so wish Instagram was around when I had my two, when they were babies, because I have found the platform to be so supportive. I follow a lot of mummy influencers and fashion influencers, and they have been so supportive and helpful and inspiring. And I just know that if that was around when I had my two kids, when they were younger, I would have connected and found it so much easier and so much happier. At a time where I needed the help, I needed the company, I just needed the resources, I just needed like-minded women who were on my page to chat to about fashion, about the things that I enjoy, and you're right about these forums, like, just some of them that I found were just really, really negative, and I just didn't find them helpful at all. So like for me, if you're a new mum, just reach out and connect to a new mum on Instagram, because they will help you. They will inspire you and help you. That's my own experience anyway. So I just wanted to make that suggestion.
Yeah. No, mine's sort of similar.
Oh, really?
It's nice.
You go.
No, I was just going to say, like, we think that we should go to these mum and baby groups because that's what everyone else is doing and blah, blah, blah. And actually, when I went to these groups, I really didn't enjoy them. It made me feel like there were people that were just doing a lot more than I was doing. And the only thing I had in common with a lot of them was that we had babies, and it didn't help me to find my sense of self. When I would talk, it was like, they just wanted to talk about the baby and how much baby was sleeping and eating and whatever. And actually, I've made like one really good friend, and we don't really talk about our kids because we just relate to the fact that it's just like we were people. Like, you don't need a whole class of people to find your person or to find your tribe. So take the pressure off the classes and start smaller. Just be like, oh, if there are a couple of people, is there a rule of 6 where you are? Maybe you could see if there's a group that are meeting that are smaller, and go and meet up with them in a park somewhere that you can just leave when you want to, because that also helps.
And that's the thing, it's finding what works for you. So if you feel like, you need to chat babies with people, do that, because it might be that actually none of your other friends have babies, and you need those people to have those conversations with, because you can't have them anywhere else, and to know that whatever you're experiencing is normal. It might be that you've got baby overload and you just want to talk about fashion with someone and feel like you're normal again. But ladies, we've been chatting for an hour.
Oh my goodness.
I can't even tell you, I've got so many blooming notes. The question, I haven't done any of it, but it's been amazing. I've got to say, thank you so much. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to everyone who's been watching tonight. I know, we've hit some big topics there. So if you feel like you've been affected at all, our charities that we're working with offer great support. So go to Tommy's, go to Kids, go to Pandas Foundation. Amazing charities, and obviously Mothers to Mothers is also another charity that we're supporting through this as well. Huge thank you to our sponsors, Pura, for just giving us the magic. And if you would like to get more of the exclusive videos that are coming out across this weekend, then stay tuned to HaveMumHaveBaby.com, and they'll all be appearing on there. But Izzy, Illy, and Debbie, thank you so much. It's been just lovely. Like, I know it's an uncertain. Find people that you can chat to is just brilliant. So thank you so much for giving so much of yourselves to everyone tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Ginny.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.